Hi everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Women in Data Science event, organized in collaboration with Norton Girls High School and Buds Leaders. So I am Anvitha Vijay, a Women in Data Science ambassador, student at Norton Girls, and founder of Buds Leaders to empower young people to be bold, impactful future leaders. And firstly, thank you to all of our panelists for taking the time out of your busy schedules to inspire girls to be more involved and lead in data science and STEM. So it's exciting to have you all here. So I'll start with a bit of a background on data science for the viewers. So data has become, increasingly important in the age of technology, and it helps you make decisions and businesses make decisions, but there is so much data out there and not all of it is relevant to you, right? So that's where data scientists come in. So data scientists help create algorithms, mine, clean, and present the data in ways that everyone can understand. So you can imagine as technology and the world keeps growing, we have access to more and more data, and the demand for data scientists is increasing too. So as one of the fastest growing and in-demand fields, diversity in data science is crucial. And however, according to a 2020 BCG publication, women make up only about 15%, so 15% of data scientists. And it's clear that there's some serious change that needs to happen here. And today, we are lucky to have 5 female leaders in data science talking to you about how we can get more women into the space, their journeys, and their advice for you. So girls, listen up. This is your cue to get involved in data science and STEM and bringing the much needed diversity to the table and making an impact. So I'll just give a brief introduction of our amazing panelists. So we have Dr. Menglin Chow, who is joining us from San Francisco. And Menglin has been working with Wells Fargo, so a top bank in the US, for 15 years and is currently a senior vice president leading commercial banking model development, reporting, and analytics. And she co-teaches data visualization, and she's also a guest lecturer at multiple universities, including the Berkeley School of Information, which is really cool. And we have Professor Karin Verspoor, who's joining us from Melbourne, and she's an executive dean of School of Computing Technologies at RMIT University. And her research is primarily focused on the use of artificial intelligence to enable biological discovery, and she's a 2021 Brilliant Women in Digital Health. And she's also spent 5 years in tech startups during the US tech bubble to help design an early AI system. And Elizabeth Moore is joining us from Sydney. And Liz, you recently joined the Australian Broadcasting Corporation as Head of Audience Insights and Data, so congratulations. And Liz is an analytics and data professional who specializes in the use of data to drive business outcomes and customer experience. So prior to the ABC, you've also worked for a number of years in senior leadership roles with Telstra and the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. And we have Beth Rudden, who's joining us from Denver. And she has over 20 years experience with IBM, and she's a distinguished engineer and principal data scientist there, driving transformation through the design and delivery of scaled AI systems. And she's the Global Talent Transformation Domain Offering Leader for IBM Consulting and is part of many STEM and Pathways into Technology communities. And Sandra Hogan is joining us from Melbourne, and she's a Chief Data Officer at Amperfii, Director at Leap Analytics, and Chair for the Deakin Information Systems and Business Analytics Board. And she has over 20 years experience in building, leading, and analytics and data science teams. And in 2018, she was recognized as the #2 analytics leader in Australia by the Institute of Analytics Professionals of Australia. So clearly we have a great panel here, and thank you again to all of you for taking the time to be here and sharing your experience with girls to empower us to get involved and lead in data science. So thank you. And as IWD was just a couple of days ago, I thought it'll be great to start with the theme for International Women's Day this year, which is breaking the bias. So we'll start with why it's important to have more women in data science in the first place. And just to reiterate, we only have about 15% of data scientists are female.
I can jump in maybe first. So hi, everybody, and thanks, Anvitha, for inviting me to join this great panel. I'm really, really excited to be trying to help you inspire the next generation and get more women doing data science. It's fantastic. I think the reason that matters is because so many decisions these days are being made with data. And if we don't have people who are at the table being involved with those decision making, who reflect the broader population, then I think we're going to have a really narrow lens on our data that's really not as inclusive and diverse as it should be. You know, at the end of the day, the data comes from everybody, and we should have everybody involved with the decisions around how to use that data and what insights we want to gain from that data.
Absolutely, and yeah.
No, I was just going to add to Karin is that I think problems are best solved when we all come together, particularly the complex problems we face today. We know that data is prolific and it's everywhere. And so it just makes that a little bit harder for us to process and the information, you know, and there's no point in doing it on your own where you can come together. And I think women bring a set of slightly complementary skills to men and to other of the groups that we have to represent. So I think, you know, creativity in particular, good organisational skills. I think there's lots of good skills that we bring to the table, and I think it can only enhance the benefits that we're already getting from you know, data science if we include more women, you know, at the table, as Karin said.
I would also echo what's been said before, and I also think that the essential skills for women or for anyone to become a successful data scientist, such as critical thinking, such as a structured approach to data, such as creativity, intuition, and big picture business view, these are gender neutral. Right? There's no male favorite view of data. I mean, these are fundamental skill sets that every individual, regardless gender, is going to require and acquire in order to be successful in your career. So that would be, I mean, that's kind of table stake. The other thing that I would say also is, in order for us to break the bias, we first have to demystify data science as a career, right? If you're looking it up on the internet, you would see a lot of mathematics or computer science, a lot of the STEM fields that are required, and obviously there's social reasons why certain things are somewhat tend to be a little maybe perceived to be challenging, right, for certain group of people. But when you're taking away all of these superficial surface of the title, what that means, take a look deeper into what is involved. I mean, there's no reason why blocking us this opportunity just because of uncertainties or unawareness. So I want us to, as women, right, especially young girls who are trying to decide what you want to do in the future, recognizing that this is a skill set that's going to be prevalent across and required regardless what field that you're going to in. We've talked about how prevalent data is. It's in it's the new air or oxygen or the oil, right? It's the green energy, if you will. So you have to have that skill. 2 is, don't be threatened. Right? This is an exciting field. You will learn so much. You will get to help people. You will get to help business make decisions, and you will start to see you making an impact. I mean, just talking about it make me feel so excited. So definitely try it out. I mean, this may not be for everybody, but I think that most of us going to find so much joy out of this field.
That was a beautiful way to put it, and you've pretty much answered the next question as well, which is around how can we break the bias around data science to increase the representation of women and get that 15% to 50%. And I'd just like to ask if anyone else has an opinion, like Liz or Beth.
I've got many opinions, and I think that there are many different ways into data science, and I would be encouraging people to be thinking, young women who are highly numerate, to think about how does that link to other passions. When I look at the data scientists that are in my team, not all of them have gone to university and studied a formal data science degree. They're econometricians, they are biological scientists, they're chemical engineers. They've got a broad range of different maths-based skills. And I would be encouraging you, if you're interested in a career that's data-driven, maths-based, and that's what excites you, what else excites you? And how do you link it to your other passions? It could be physics, it could be chemistry, could be biology, or in my instance, mine was econometrics. I loved economics and maths, and combining those sort of led me into data science. So I think there are lots of different pathways into being a data scientist, and I would be looking at what links with your passion. You link your passion for maths with a passion for other areas, and really there's lots of different pathways into being a professional data scientist in a company or in academia. And I think it's about following your passions and really finding something that actually makes you excited, want to leap out of bed and study it in the morning is really my strong recommendation to young women who are considering what do they do with their careers. And I think that's how we'll end up with more people in data science, is linking it to all the different pathways that bring us to data science.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, Beth, you studied archaeology, right? Which is very different to statistics or something.
So I think that one of the things that I do try to teach is the wisdom of the crowds, which is a mathematical theorem, and it is actually also known as the diversity prediction theorem. And the wider your variance, the more standard your mean, or the least amount of error that you get. So if all of these wonderful women have already, stated the representation question, and I really like that, we're talking about the pathways to data science. And I was a lone social scientist that had to sell out to pay off my student loans at one point or another. In the United States, it's a bit hefty. And, when I came in, I was going through the IT architect and information architect kind of career path. And there was no more place for me to go up and people to go up in the realm without reinventing a new profession within data science. So in 2012, when the Harvard Business Review said that it would become the sexiest job of the 21st century, we got together with lots of our peers in IBM and said, we need a pathway for people to really understand that data science is using data in the scientific method to solve business problems or hopefully problems. And I think that, one of the things that I always bring to the table is I can look at the same data set that my peer statistician or mathematician can look at and see something entirely differently because of my background and my experience. And we are all the sum of those experiences. So if we have a wide group of neocortexes, lots of different kinds of brains, we can often see things that other people can't see. And I think that that's breaking the bias, is understanding and seeing in a different way and understanding that you have a bias because you can't see what other people can see. And I do this a lot, but Alexa and Siri often listen to my husband and my son far more than they listen to me because it hasn't been trained as much on women. And you'll start to see that shift as more women enter the field. And I watch my daughter on TikTok all the time, trying to look for the ways that she can get the algorithms to work for her. And every time we add another neocortex into the mix, it becomes more and more to explore. So I think that all of this is incredibly critical, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So thank you for all of you for giving such great answers. I think we talked about some great points about what excites you in data science and how to have more women into the field and why it's more important to have more women. And I think that's a great segue into my next question, which is about what attracted you into data science and STEM and to be a leader in the space as you all are. So
I'll give it a crack.
Go ahead.
Sorry. As I was saying earlier, what excited me was economics. I loved looking at the way the economy works. It fascinated me from as a young kid. I was interested in microeconomics, how demand and supply works, how they fit together, and that really. And I was good at maths as well, reasonably good at maths. I went through many years ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth and had to fight to take what is now Extension 1 mathematics that you girls would know. It was like, oh no, you'll be competing with boys from grammar. You can't take the advanced maths class. And, it was something that I, fought for because I was really interested in it. And I loved the way it fitted really with economics. And so for me, studying economics, that then led me into econometrics. And what I have really enjoyed is using those skills to solve business problems. It's sort of looking at, I really enjoy solving the business problem. When I sort of ended up in leadership, I followed careers and pathways that have allowed me to just solve different problems. I love waking up in the morning and having a different problem to solve and go, right, how are we going to do that? I love getting into the room with a whiteboard with a whole group of other people who think differently. As Beth said, it's great to have people who are coming at this from different directions, mapping that problem up and then turning it into a mathematical problem that we can solve. I love getting in there with the smelly pens, or these days we're doing it all on a Miro board from our homes. But it's great to. What's excited me and why I ended up in leadership was I love bringing groups of people who think differently together to solve different problems, and that's pretty much how I've built my career and into leadership. I've been at the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Commission, which is our public broadcaster, for about 3 months. And I am just loving the diversity of people, working with content creators, working with creative people, working with broadcasters, working with marketers, right across a huge diversity of people with how can we bring data together to help them solve problems. And, there's not a morning I haven't woken up over the past 3 months and been excited to be helping drive decision-making at the ABC. And for me, that's what makes a career in data science exciting, and getting to work with amazing people and getting to solve really, really interesting business problems are the two things that I love about the career that I've been really, really fortunate to put together. So if you want to talk about our career, reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I think Anvitha's going to share. I'm really excited about trying to encourage young women into what is a really vibrant career.
Thank you so much for sharing. And your point about Extension 1 maths, I remember talking to a lady at the International Women's Day event last Friday, and she was saying that she used to have to go to the boys' school to study it. And for us now as students, especially at North Sydney Girls, like not being able to study Extension 1 maths would be something so unreal, because that's something that's readily available to us. So it's interesting to hear how, that was such a big thing that you had to fight for because you were passionate about it. And I think, Sandra, would you like to?
Yeah, look, I come from probably quite a traditional data science background. So I studied mathematics and physics extensively. And to Liz's point, I had also similar challenges, is that I was discouraged in high school of pursuing those pursuits. But I that was what I did, and I loved it. And I still, to this day, I'm a numbers person through and through. I think that's, put me in good stead. But I think what drove me a little bit differently to maybe some other people who, more traditional mathematics background or statistics, is I was very curious about the so what. And to this day, that really defines my career, and what I've done with all my roles is I'm more interested in what do we do with the output. So it's such a thrill to build a sophisticated algorithm and get some really cool results, but I'm actually more interested in what are you going to do with it. And so I think I naturally moved through my career into more leadership roles just because I was very focused on what the business and what other people who I was working with would do with it, because we need to fit in with what other people are doing. Organizations are complex, and it's great, as Liz said, to work with that diverse group, but that means that they work a different way to the way I do. So you need to ask questions, you need to be curious, you need to say, well, okay, what if I did this? What would you be able to do with that? And that's what I love about data science and just data in general, is that it's not the same answer doesn't work for everyone, right? There is one answer, but the way you present it and the way you use it can vary based on who it's for and what they're doing and how they do it. And so you have to work very closely with people who are, dealing with customers, or as Liz, pointed out, building content for people who are watching those shows. RMIT example, I'm sure Karen's got a lot as well, where you have to think about, the end person who's going to get value and benefit from what you're doing. And so that for me has been sort of my leadership journey, is moving into those and working in many roles where that's what I've done. I've helped the business get the most from the data, which is what we're all about. But it's amazing how quickly you can lose sight of that when you're a bit geeky like me, and you can easily get stuck on the data and the algorithms. And you need to remind yourself that there's a whole other world out there, and that's what I think what I've been hearing from everyone here, is that if you follow, the data path, you can go to anywhere and do anything. So if you're interested in healthcare, you can work in healthcare. If you're interested in telecommunications, if you're interested in, mining, it can be applied in so many industries, and that's what I love about data science.
Yeah, and I think it's great because, I think when you think about data science, you might be thinking that you're always working with numbers, but it's great that the people aspect of it is such an important part of data science as well. And I think that's something that will help, or not only encourage more girls to get involved, but also to break the bias around data science. And if anyone else has
if I can, Anvitha, absolutely. If I can jump in. Sorry, Karin, I know that but I really wanted to say a few. You're spot on in terms of the connection between data and people, right? So being a data scientist doesn't mean that you get to be in front of the computer coding through and through. There has to be, that's not the end of it. That's maybe the means of it. The end of it is you wanted to tell a story based upon what you learn from the data, based upon what your interrogation is. You wanted to build a solution, or you wanted to tell a story, and that story and solution is going to help your business partner, whether it's your business leader or another team or your customers, to solve for their problem. So there is that level of communication and interpretation. You have to bridge the gap. So for women, if you there are many things that's said in the society. Men are more curious with things. Women are more curious with people, right? So there is little of a truth in that aspect because of how genetically we're different. But think about this work, the data science work, is a bridge between the two. So there is the people aspect where you have to tell the story, and you have to convince, either you surprise your audience with what you found from the data, or you agree with them and you confer with what they have believed. And either way, you're winning and your business is winning, right? And then the other side of that is the data piece, how you are able to listen to data and make them work their way to tell their story, and then be able to bridge those gaps and make those stories something audible for your audience who may not have the level of intimacy that you have with the data, with the tools, right? So that's a unique position that women can fill and be able to shine, right? The way that we communicate, the way that we get message across. I mean, all of these things, as you think about it, are important, critical components for you to become successful and for this field to become successful. So anyway, so I want to say you're spot on, right? There is that piece of the math and there's a piece of the art, right? The science and art are actually putting together very nicely.
And I think that makes data science such a great field to be in. And also, as Sandra was mentioning before, you get to work across whatever industry that you're most attracted to. So, and I think Karin, you've been waiting for a while. So,
yeah, thanks. I just wanted to add a few comments. So, I mean, your original question was, why are we doing data science in the first place? And my answer to that is sort of a bit nerdy, which is really that I got excited at an intellectual level about trying to understand data and where it comes from. And specifically, my interest is in language. So I work on unstructured data and trying to make sense of it. And, Menglin was talking about storytelling with data. Well, language data is sort of the ultimate storytelling means, right? Like we use language to convey really complex ideas and to communicate with each other, and it's the human data that we generate naturally in the course of our lives and that we're doing right now. And so for me, what I was really interested in was understanding language. Like, how does this work? How can I make noise? I have an idea in my head. I transfer it to the sound that comes out of my mouth. It then goes into your ears. It gets then turned back into meaning, into an idea in your head. How does that even work? I mean, if you take it just a step back and you go, holy cow. I mean, this is such a complex process, right? But it's fundamentally human. So, so for me, that's where I started. I was like, this is amazing. And I realized that I could use the tools of computer science and analysis and trying to organize information to help gain insight into language. And so I started from that, kind of just that. I think Sandra used the word curiosity. I started from that curiosity about how that works. And then that kind of took me on a journey to realizing how much value and information there is in all of this language. And I mostly work on text data that we're capturing. And then it became this sort of big data problem of like, how do we tackle this very high dimensional complex data that's really only scratching the surface of the meaning that's captured in there, and turn it into something that we can then tell a story about, right? So we're going from, this really high dimensional vocabulary space where there's very complex interactions between words, and then trying to transform it into something a computer can make sense of, and then using that to then gain insight into the bigger data set. So anyway, that's what got me excited. And that was just took me on a path I probably never would have expected.
But that's really cool about, you just have a curiosity, and then once you follow, it takes you into this whole new world of data science. And I think that's a great story. So thank you for sharing. And Beth, do you have any other thoughts to add?
No, but Karin, I do semantic web text analytics. We should totally get together. I'm very fascinated. But I really, just to echo, one of the things that I wished I had known when I was younger, especially being a girl, is I like facts, and I didn't like to talk unless I had the facts. So if I could do the work to get the facts myself, then and really be able to have that critical thinking skill that was talked about before, I was able to always justify my position, and it really helped me build my confidence when I didn't have the self-esteem that I needed. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons that attracted me to data and data science. And I also was not really attracted to the mathematical part of that, but that's why we have computers who are far better at linear algebra than most humans are today. So I think that, I look at technology as augmenting human beings. And I love playing with algorithms in order to solve the problems that I have, in order to create word clouds to see about meaning or translate things into different languages and then back to English, just to see if I can get a different understanding. And, I will tell you something about the stories too. The archaeology past that I had made me understand that people pull things out of the dirt. They have to understand the context. They have to do the research to understand what did the people wear and do and say and think and feel and eat and all of those things. And you're putting yourself in their shoes. But at the end of the day, you have one or two or three single artifacts from an entire culture that you get to put together in order to tell that story. And most of our stories are told by men. So when we are looking back at history and looking back at some of these things, we're going, wait a second, there actually might not have been a king of Minos. There might just have been the Minos Council. So there's all kinds of things that we are getting to rediscover because we can use our curiosity and understanding what are the facts and the supporting evidence, and do we have triangulation, and how do we look for correlations, and then how do we get together with our peer scientists and see what we can discover more and more. So all of those things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, how archaeology taught you stuff about data science. And what I really gained from this question is just that, you follow your passion and it leads you, and there's some sort of a niche for everyone in data science, whether you like the more mathematical aspect of it or whether you like more of the storytelling aspect of it, or whether you like both, right? Like there's always sort of a place where you can follow your passion. So I think that's really great. And the other question I had was more around, did any of you have like a mentor or a support network or that really helped you to get to where you are today? And if you did, like, how did that help you? So if anyone did, like,
I'll go. IBM, and the culture of IBM believes in strongly of mentoring and sponsoring and coaching. And they're three very different things, but I will say that my opinion is that you need a whole posse of mentors at different levels. And the rule that I have that I give to most people is whatever time I give to you, pay it forward to someone else, and don't build a bunch of relationships that you can't keep up. So if you're going to open a relationship with someone, it is your responsibility to keep that relationship up and keep it current, because that will become something that you can exchange like currency later in life. And the mentoring is something that we get a lot of, but in large corporations, you really need sponsors, someone who will say, I am going to invest in you and help you be visible in the organization and help edit you. And I can't speak about sponsors more, that they're so important to people getting bigger in the organization. And I have had so many in IBM, both men and women, that have really helped either do things silently that I didn't even know that they were doing, or overtly being mentoring and sponsoring me and coaching me through different situations and different aspects of my career. No one does it alone.
Yeah. I can follow up with that. First of all, Karin and Beth, I also lead a team focusing on NLP in AI, so we can talk. In terms of sponsoring, I think it goes mentoring and sponsoring. It goes both ways. Wells Fargo's culture is we are our own leaders, right? You can be an individual and you can lead yourself. And part of leading yourself means that you need to be actively looking for opportunities for you to grow. And that includes looking for people and asking for help. And it's it's no surprise for us to know that, when you're looking around, especially in I would say that in industry, right? When you're looking around, you can see that men are more often willing to ask for help, and they're pretty. You'd say that they have the audacity to come and knock at the door of a senior leader and say, "Hey, I wanted to talk. I want to tell you what I did, and I wanted to talk to you, and I wanted to see if you can help me with my career." And they have the audacity and the nerve to raise their hands during meetings, important meetings, and ask questions or answer questions, even though they only know just tiny bit of things, right? And they can be wrong all the time, but they don't care. They still do it again and again. Women, on the other hand, we have to be perfect, right? I don't know who put that in our head and say, you have to be perfect before you open up your mouth. And everything that comes out of your mouth must be perfect, must be elegant and all structured very right with no mistake whatsoever. So you have to be 200% sure that you are prepared and so that you can open your mouth. But in reality, that shouldn't be the case. And we should break that shackle. We should allow us the freedom to make mistakes. We should allow us the opportunities to go and ask for help. And at the same time, and when you ask for, I remember seeing a survey, and I couldn't remember exactly who conducted the survey, but the survey was sent to senior CEO and senior leaders, right? A CEO and plus one leaders across several companies, across industries, and asked them, are you willing, right? Are you willing to be a mentor or sponsor to anyone who reach out, regardless of the gender? The answer is yes, absolutely. There is no differentiation between our senior leaders' preference in terms of they want to mentor male more or want to mentor female more. So there is that level field. However, when we're asking individuals in terms of who they want to reach out to, women tend to feel more comfortable reaching out to women. And so guess what? Right now, the corporate ladder says that most of the people on the top are men. So if you don't feel comfortable reaching out for help from men, then you are limiting your possibilities or limiting your chances. So that's one thing that I really, really want to put it out there here. It is your responsibility, and you need to make it work. And don't be so strict on yourself in terms of you have to be perfect. Go ask for help. Go ask for mentorship. Go ask for sponsorship, and deliver what you said you are going to do. And to Beth's point, pay it forward. Don't think that you're not enough. Don't think that you're not enough to offer help. There is going to be things that you can pay forward. You can help out to other people, no matter big or small. You may think it's a tiny little bit, but for other people, especially who are new to the field or not new to the industry, they will find it tremendously helpful. So that's all I wanted to share.
I think that's absolutely brilliant, and you're so right. We shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes, and we shouldn't be afraid to even reach out to help others and to get help from other people when we need it, and to not be perfect, and just to be courageous, and to learning from the mistakes is more important than whether or not we make the mistakes. I think that's a great advice. And if anyone else has anything to share.
Sorry, Karin.
Go ahead.
I was going to build on that, and I think it's really important to have and cultivate more senior people throughout your career. I think the other thing that's been really important for my career as I've moved through it is maintaining a really strong network of peers that have come through. People from when I was at uni, friends from high school, friends from uni, friends from my first job, second job, so forth. So it's cultivating that network of peers who, as you move through your career, They can provide support, mentorship. They're the people who can actually provide you with potential. Oh, look, there's an opportunity over here. There's an opportunity over there. So I think, while I think it's incredibly important to be looking for people who are more senior than you, who can provide mentorship and, as you say, more importantly, sponsorship, who are going to be your voice when that big job comes up. Supplementing that with really maintaining your peer network, who, as they move, your peers end up going in all different directions. I've got peers in almost every imaginable and conceivable industry, from consulting in IBM, in Accenture, in all kinds of different telecommunications, banks, insurance companies, not-for-profits, charities. And maintaining those links and what they're doing is, one, it's really important for your career, but it also gives you a sense of what's going on in broader industries. And I think is really important to help you understand that, that there could be potential different ways for you to take your career. So I'd encourage you to, yes, look for people above you who can support you, but also maintain that peer support network of people who you can, when you've had a bad day, you can pick up and say, I just need a chat. I just need, a glass of wine and a debrief on the dreadful day that was. And there's nothing like a peer who's been there in the trenches with you, who can join you for an emergency glass of wine and a debrief that can help you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get there and turn up and be on point the next day.
I think that was a great point, about having that peer network and how we can, bring everyone forward together. And I think that's important for women across all industries. They're supporting each other and breaking the glass ceiling together rather than, just one by one. So I think that's super important. And
that's a great point. And I think, there's a couple dimensions to why that's important. And one is, as you said, Liz, just, being able to talk through things that you face on a daily basis. And, let's be honest, if you're in a minority group, however you want to define that, in a particular organization or in a particular industry, there will be issues that you face as somebody in that minority group that the majority of people don't face. So like even obvious things like, well, guess what? Women might decide to have a baby, right? And how does that interact with their career and their work planning and these sorts of things? And so just being able to sort of tap into the experiences and expertise of other women who might be facing similar issues in their context gives you a way to just talk through, what you're experiencing, and maybe give you some clues for advocating for yourself in your environment. The other aspect of it, where those networks become important, is what Beth was talking about earlier in terms of sponsorship and promotion. It's natural that people who are in the kind of more senior positions who have the ability to, offer somebody a new opportunity or create a new role for somebody, they are going to reach down into their networks and pull somebody up, right? And say, yep, I want you in this role. Well, where those networks are based on again, very sort of biased environments, well, they're going to reach down. Who are they going to find? Well, inevitably, they're going to find a man because there's so few women down there to find. So it's just statistics, right? You just reach down, you're more likely. And then, of course, there's all the social factors that drive let's call it the good old boys network, which might be less today, but, certainly still exists. And, the social environments, there's lots of stories. We can talk for days about this, but, men doing business on the golf course, right? That's like the stereotype, but it really happened, and women couldn't be on the golf course because, well, probably didn't care about playing golf. I certainly never did. There are women who play golf, but I'm not one of them. So, and most of us aren't. But more importantly, the beers at the end of the day at 6 o'clock, where again, a lot of business is happening in that pub. Well, where the women, maybe they had to go home because they had a childcare pickup or what have you. So, all of these things influence our professional relationships, and that's why having the ability to kind of tap into the broader network by bringing women together is really important. I will say that I hope one day we don't need that, right? So that our systems and contexts are not, quite so biased. And I think, we're starting to see change in that direction. But for now, I think we still need to build those networks.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing, to Liz's point. I think for the girls on this call, watching this, it's about friendships that you form and supporting each other and being there for each other. That starts off that whole cascade effect through your life, right? It's really important, not to compete with each other, but support each other. And that's really how we're going to break the bias, I think, and get through that glass ceiling, is just, banding together and really giving each other encouragement and support at every turn.
Absolutely. And that was a brilliant discussion. And I think there were so many great points. And I'll move on to the next question, which is about that, like, reflecting back on your careers and your journeys, is there anything that you would have done differently if you could do it all over again? I'll give you some time to think about it, because
there's lots of I think the thing that when I sort of think about what would I do differently, I think that I can look at points in my career where I've hung back, where I've made a decision to not take the bigger job, to stay in my comfort zone. And I think that there are a number of points in my career that I look back and think, maybe I should have stepped forward. I got offered to run a P&L at Australia's largest bank many years ago, and I chose not to do that. And I think that, I chose not to do that for a whole range of family reasons and a whole range of things that were going on in my life. But I look back and I wish I had stepped into that opportunity. And I think that I didn't step into that opportunity for a number of reasons. I think I blame the family reasons. I had a small child and so forth. And I went, I don't want to take the bigger job because I've got a small family. But I actually, when I think about it and reflect on it and really look into my heart of hearts, I didn't take the big job because I was probably frightened I'd fail. And I wished, drawing on that last discussion, that I discussed it more with some of my mentors. And that for me is a real regret. Now, I've had a fabulous, wonderful, vibrant career, and I'm not, I'm not spending my life regretting that particular decision. But when I think back on it, I wish I'd spent more time. I wish I'd stepped into that opportunity, and I didn't for what I thought was a family reason, but really in my heart of my hearts, I was probably frightened I'd fail. It was a move outside of data, running at quite a big pace. It was a move outside my comfort zone. And I would, for the girls out there, step into the uncomfortable. And I've made a couple of those decisions. I've just recently moved from telecommunications to media, which again is stepping outside my comfort zone, and I'm loving it. So I would encourage people to step into that uncomfortableness, because we can all find reasonable reasons to stay in the comfort.
No, that's absolutely. Does anyone else have anything to add?
I was just going to add, Liz, thank you for sharing. And, I can't think of one thing, but I can think of 100 small things, like when I misspelled my customer's name on a slide, all kinds of things that I have stepped outside my comfort zone, and I ruminate and they go in my head, and I regret and I regret and I regret. And then you're like, okay, I've learned from this now. I need to move on. Big things though. One of the things I've learned is a career is very difficult to build while you're in it. but it's much better to look back on. So if you're thinking about, where you're going to go, follow what feels warm to you, what feels good. And I heard this statistic that I think is amazing, but we process over 40 bits of information every second in our brain. Our nervous system processes over 11 million bits of information. So we should be trusting our bodies and ourselves more. And if there was one thing I could go back and do, it would be to start mindfulness and meditation and much more self-awareness at a much younger age, because I only come to that very, very much later in life.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Beth. If I had a sign for my younger self, I would have said take up yoga much earlier than I did. I took it up in my early 40s. I should have done it in my 20s. So I know it's not work related, but that's what I'm going to ask my daughter too, is yoga is your friend. Let's start now.
This conversation was, first of all, thank you, Liz. I mean, such a genuine conversation. I mean, this may be, this is why we wanted to, girl help girls, women help women. It's some of the perspective of life when you're in that situation, you tend to be a bit, the situation tend to be a bit gray. You can't really see the tree for the forest. But when you're out of that conversation, look back, you'll be able to offer so much wisdom, right, to the younger you and to the girls that we are speaking to. Hopefully, you take that away, right? For me, one advice that I would give the younger me is that pick up more things that can help you train strategy, to train how to be strategic. I think for a lot of us, especially for me, I am really good I'm a trained economist. So it's similar to Liz and Karin. I am kind of, we're very comfortable with data, with theory, so we're the solution provider. We're trying to solve problems. Give me a problem, I will solve it. But then when it comes to strategy, vision, design, right? These design thinking strategies, it's a really fuzzy word for me. It's not very crystal clear to me what exactly that is, right? To get a strategy deck together, to be able to tell someone that this is how you want to go from this point to where your vision's at. That piece, it's super important to tell your story. But I wish that I'm picking up now, or at least I recently started to know that it's important, and I need to be really good at it. But so one advice that I would offer to the younger me is really if you're comfortable with data, you know that you are a problem solver, you know that you are a solution provider. At the same time, invest a little bit of yourself into strategic thinking, to think about how you can tie all your solution to big picture, to strategy of what you want. And that will not only connect your pieces of things, solution together, but it will build a story, the roadmap as to how you want to get to where you want to. So I think that's very important for me. Lessons.
I'll just add a couple of thoughts that are percolating. And, Liz, I think your story about, kind of holding yourself back because you weren't sure you were ready for that opportunity, or you're afraid of failure, I think is an important one. And maybe that's something we need to kind of normalize a little bit, is that, like, actually every decision you make doesn't need to be the right decision. If I look back on my career, I've made some crazy choices, including, moving an entire family with 3 young kids overseas to Australia, and, doing things where I had no idea what I was going to be getting myself into on the other end. And I did each one of those things. And, you know, if I say, did I make the right decision? Did I make the wrong decision? Who knows? I made a decision, and I kind of followed my gut, as Beth said, and took the plunge. And sometimes, you know, I found myself in an uncomfortable situation on the other end of that decision. I didn't regret the decision, though. It was the decision that I made, and it was one that I just sort of, I guess, bravely leaned into, to use that very popular phrase now, and hoped for the best. And in fact, I think it didn't always kind of work well. But then I just said, all right, well, what do I need to change to make it better, right? And I can't undo the decision, but I have, you know, the ability to influence what happens next. And maybe that comes back to that point Menglin was just making about strategy. I wasn't, you know, being explicit about like a goal that I was trying to achieve, or that I've been trying to achieve with my career, but I've sort of realized that every step along the way, yeah, fine, you know, maybe we fail. That's okay. Like, what's wrong with failure? So it doesn't work. Okay, fine. Let's pick ourselves up, try something different, and see if we can change the situation, so that we can control what happens next and be happier in it. And sometimes that means leaving a job that's not the right job for you. Sometimes it means pushing back on the environment. And one thing I wanted to say was, I've had a couple of situations where I've turned down opportunities and not explain to the people on the other end of that negative decision why I didn't take their opportunity. And so I feel like one thing I haven't done well enough is actually sort of try to change the path for the next people, right? So where I had opportunities to explain, you know, here's my perspective as a woman about this opportunity that you've given to me. And here's why I don't want to take it. I'll give you a really concrete example. So I got offered a job at a very large technology organization, which I won't name, where, you know, they made a big song and dance out of, we really trying to increase the diversity of our organization. We would love to have you here. And then they took me on this, you know, beautiful tour of their their main campus, and they said, look, and here's the restaurant where you can have free dinner if you stay after 6 p.m. And I was pregnant at the time, 7 months pregnant with my third child. And I just kind of thought in my head, I'm supposed to have dinner with my kids. And actually, that's who I want to have dinner with. I really don't want to have dinner at work with my colleagues. Sorry. But I didn't say anything. I just sort of smiled. I was like, oh, that's great. You know, and in my head, I'm going, they're nuts. You know, why am I here if that's what they think that I want, you know? And anyway, I turned down the job for obvious reasons. But I never said anything to them. And I tell this story up frequently, like, you know, they were crazy. What were they thinking? I'm like, well, maybe they just didn't know. And actually, I kind of have a responsibility maybe to explain to them what they did wrong. So anyway, that maybe if I could change one thing, that's what I would do is take opportunities where people just don't get it. They just don't get the situation that we're in, and kind of, you know, stand up for myself, and thereby stand up for all the other women who are going to be faced with those kinds of decisions in the future.
And thank you so much for sharing all your stories and your experience. And I think this ties in really nicely to my last question, which is around the advice you have for young girls. And you've brought up a lot of good tips about, you know, going out of your comfort zone and not being perfect, and to make sure that you do what you love. And so just what is your number one advice for young girls that are interested in pursuing data science?
I'll kick off if everyone's okay with that. Look, mine is just do it. I think there is huge rewards. There's lots of challenges. I think you really make a difference as well to people. And I think that's something that I never really realised at the beginning, in that how much you could take this career in data science analytics and really make a positive impact in the people, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in media, whether it's even in telecommunications, any industry, you really can make a big difference to people. And I think that's so important to know that's you can do. So just do it.
So many, so coding for sure it's a skill set that you will need to have, right? So many free open source tools online, so many training courses online, free, of course, right? YouTube's great, Coursera, great, like Data Camp, great. A lot of these places that you can go at least to get yourself acquainted with the state of the art, whether it's tools, whether it's algorithms. I mean, you don't have to know them from top to bottom, but know what they do, right? Know what's the latest trend, and dab yourself into the tool sets, into the space, and see if that's something that you like, right? I mean, one thing that I love about it is you have data and you have a question to answer. You're not just building something out of thin air. You have a problem that you want to solve for, and this field is no different than any other field where there is a problem and they need a solution. So if you connect these two dots together, I mean, everything else just falls naturally.
And thank you so much. And does anyone else have any thoughts?
I just wanted to reinforce my, as Sandra said, follow your passion. Find an area that is data rich, that ignites your passion, that you want to go and explore, and don't be put off. Just keep, follow your passion.
It's crazy to hear you all say that, because that was exactly what I wrote down in my notes. It's like, pursue your passion. I think the thing is, we spend so much of our working lives working. Sorry, so much of our lives working, I guess is the way to think about it. And if you're not doing something that you enjoy, something that gets you up out of bed every morning and excited about doing it all day, why bother? Really? Yes, okay, fine. You need to pay the rent, and you need to have food on the table, and you need to earn money. Fine, okay. But we all have to do that. We all have to work. We all have to earn money. So there are so many choices, to so many different ways of doing that. So find one that really inspires you. And I do think data science is a fantastic way to do that, because what's data? We were talking about it earlier. There's all different kinds of data. There's all different kinds of questions you want to ask of that data. And so there's sort of something in data science for everybody. Once you get those fundamentals of coding and analytical tools, and how to approach the data, there's just a million different places where you can apply it.
I'm a huge fan of following your passion too. I did the whole anthropology thing instead of trying to earn money, but I think it's super important to reframe the whole, go for what you can give, and think about how much is unexplored, and think about how much men have dominated every single industry, including our understanding of the industry and the methodology of the industry and all of the words that are used in the industry. Look at how much you have to give in this space, and be gentle with yourself, because I think there is a lot of things that you can run into, but be gentle with yourself, and try to always make sure that you are thinking about who you are in the situation and who you want to be.
And thank you so much. That was a great end to this panel. And so thank you for your time. And it was great to hear from you as, female leaders in a space where, currently women are so underrepresented, but they're so crucial as well. And I know that this conversation will definitely inspire many girls to explore data science as a space to get involved and lead in, and to make a huge impact. And as you guys said, there's so many ways to make a huge impact in this field. So thank you. And to our viewers, I hope you enjoyed tuning.